Alrighty, guys. So this is going to be a shorter video, hopefully, but I'm going to go over the brand new abilities. Each class got some new abilities, so I'm going to talk about them. These are different than the new Unison abilities. I went over those in a different video. I'm talking about a whole new slew of abilities that just came out. So, starting off with Soldier, we have Valiant Hero. So yourself applies inertia, which is something that we saw on an ability from Morpher. It fills Unison gauge based on the amount of damage transferred from allies. So that's I can feel I need to sneeze, but it just doesn't want to come out. Man, it's a horrible feeling. So that's interesting. Area with yourself as the center, excluding yourself. So it's gonna block the two people next to you, the one above you and the one below you. Transfers 60% of the damage taken by target to yourself for 40 seconds. So that's interesting. Recovers 25 cost, deals damage to yourself 25% of your HP. It costs 0, so it's a cost recovery ability, and it's a 40-second cooldown time. This is a really interesting ability. I'm still kind of on the edge about this one. This one to me seems like it's supposed to be a guild battle ability, something that will counter the killing that's about to take place in guild battle and the killing strategies. I wouldn't want to use this in something like quests and PvE, because if your teammates get hit and take massive damage, you can die from your teammates' damage. So just be aware, I wouldn't use this in PvE. This seems like a PvP and a guild battle specific move. I wouldn't even say really to use it a whole lot in Coliseum. And the reason is because in Coliseum, you can't choose where you're going to be. And that's not necessarily saying that this is a bad ability for Coliseum, but let's say that you're next to a strong ally, but you're also next to a CPU in something like Coliseum. That CPU is going to take this and somebody can exploit it and just instantly kill you. So it's not something that I would use in Coliseum. This is a guild specific ability, and it's really meant to save your teammates from these new abilities, these new Unison abilities, and try to help your team survive. It is interesting. We haven't seen soldiers on the front line as a common occurrence in the past. So I'm curious to see if this will be very, very common. It is 0 cost, so you can use it right off the bat at the very beginning, and it sets you up for using other abilities. So we'll have to see how good this is, but I do like this. Keep in mind as well, as a soldier, you get access to Knight's Devotion, and I believe you get access to some other abilities as well. But I know Knight's Devotion is one of the old school ones. Now, any class can use this, but it transfers 50% of the target's damage to you, and that should stack with this. So you could protect one of your teammates by 100% or protect 3 of your teammates, because this is 60%. You could protect one teammate by 100%, or you could protect 2 teammates by or 3 teammates, 2 by 60%, 1 by 50%. So it is one of those abilities. We'll have to see. I actually really like this ability. I think it'll be really, really valuable in guild battles. It just kind of depends how the meta shakes up. I would say as far as like flexibility, that ability is probably a 9 out of 10. There's not a lot of abilities like that. And the fact that it gets uni as well is exceptionally powerful, in my opinion. We might even see more healing on the front line as like a strategy because of that. So it's interesting. I like it. For Lancers, Clamorous Howl. It is a Lance exclusive. Targets all enemies. So this is new. Lancers usually don't get all enemy abilities. So we'll have to see how good this is. Targets all enemies. Reduces Unison gauge gains by 2 for 10 seconds. All allies applies Chipped Blade, which means that they can't penetrate damage reduction or damage reflection for 10 seconds. Gives yourself 25 cost and deals damage to yourself as a demerit. Now it's 0 cost as well and a 40-second cooldown. This ability is going to make Lancers almost mandatory. There are so many new abilities that are exceptionally powerful with Unisons. We're probably going to see this be a staple, and we're probably going to see at least one Lancer on the front lines at all times. And the reason is because before you'd have to use something like Dragon Knight's Cry, and then you could use something like Lions or Master Lance's Cry. But now you can immediately start. And just to be clear, the reason why that's significant is because there are other classes, for example, treasure hunters, which have higher starting cost. And so they may not be beholden to the same cost restrictions that this class is, especially with weapon abilities. They could start off with something like Pitched Clock, which is only 5 cost. And if they procced a cost recovery proc, they could instantly gain a ton of cost, so they could start racing immediately. And it's not super common. Most treasure hunters do still start with something like Ether Exchange, EE. But there are new abilities as well. We always see stuff like Cheers go off right away, but there's also these new abilities, which we'll get to, for this class, which the Morpher, which increases uni by 7. So we might see, and it costs 0. So we might end up seeing this be mandatory, because right at the start of the battle, you can start reducing the enemy's Unison gauge gains, and then you can hop into Lions and Master Lancer's Cry and start oppressing the enemy. So this is a 10 out of 10 ability, especially for guild battle. It seems like a lot of these abilities are just for guild battles. So this is not a PvE, or, I mean, you could use this in Coliseum. This is actually really good for Coliseum too. So this is definitely a 10 out of 10 for Coliseum and guild battles. I like it. Now, on to the archers. They got a similar one. Again, 0 costs. We're probably gaining uni, or we're probably gaining costs, like as an Ether Exchange exclusive for archers. One ally, excluding yourself, applies Subdue, which prevents Unison gauge fill from damage from attack abilities for 10 seconds. Yourself applies Subdue, prevents Unison gauge fill from a damage from attack abilities for 20 seconds. Recovers 25 cost and deals damage equal to 25% of the target's max HP. So it does 25% of your HP. Now, this is really, really interesting. Subdue is a new thing, and it looks like you can target one ally, and it targets yourself. And right off the rip, you can start sniping enemies. And so what'll end up happening is you could have this. You could have an archer frontline. You could have him use this new EE ability. You could have him snipe, or like apply this to a Berserker, and the Berserker could instantly start killing people. And even if the Berserker failed to kill people, he shouldn't be filling any Unison gauge. This is what I was talking about when I was talking about the new kill meta. This is an ability you can use right off the rip because it has a 0 cost barrier, and the enemies can't even really prevent this from happening. The only thing that they can do is try to strip it from you or time slice it. So archers may be frontline just for snipe comps. We'll have to see, but I don't like that this doesn't work with Corrupted Embrace. So it may be one of those things that if you were running snipers on your team, and you were running a treasure hunter main slot, this we'll have to see. I like this new ability so much because it applies beguilement before it does the damage, and if beguilement basically, if the enemy takes damage and gains uni from the damage that they take, then you gain equivalent uni based on their uni gain. So it is an incredible ability. Basically, if you apply beguilement and then the enemy gets one shot, then you will gain full uni. So, but this ability, Subdue, prevents them from gaining uni, which means that the beguilement doesn't apply, because if they're not gaining uni, you're not gaining uni. So I do like this. I also think that this is a 10 out of 10. It can be used in Coliseum and in guild battles. If the enemies are dead, they can't fight back. And if you can snipe them with no repercussions, that is the most powerful thing in the entire game. Some of the most powerful weapon abilities have been abilities that specifically attack the enemy and don't fill uni. So this is incredibly, incredibly powerful. On to the mages. So they got Knight's Fall. It is a 25 cost, 8-second cooldown. It is a relic main slot, so that's interesting. One enemy, ability power 150, deals magic damage 5 times using magic attack and magic defense with a success value of 100. One enemy reduces all stats by 20% for 15 seconds and does 25% of your max HP. This makes mages actually viable in PvE abilities. Now, we'll have to see the overall damage from this ability is actually pretty bad. If we compare it to something like, I have it. I don't. I have it on my ability slot right now. So as you can see, 180 ability power and hits 5 times versus 150 ability power and hits 5 times. Now you could say, well, this one has Lance Flash has a 70% success value. But once you're in something like PvE, you're going to be using unis, and those unis are going to give you a massive boost to success value, hopefully as long as they're good unis. And this will basically become negligible, which means that you're doing less damage. I also don't like the 8-second cooldown time. That is excessive, and a 25 cost for this seems excessive as well. Now, I will say that this part is incredibly powerful. Reducing the enemy's stats is one of the main things that mages are currently good at doing. You can use Weakened, and now you can use the combo of Weakened, Time Spellbook, and Knight's Fall, and you should be constantly removing or constantly lowering the enemy's stats. I love that. Also, this one does damage to yourself, but if you're using stuff like Time Spellbook guarantees healing based on damage. So this really has never been a problem. Healing and HP has never really been a problem for mages. So I really, really like this. It makes mages viable in PvE again. Before they were bottom tier trash, right above something like Cleric in PvE and in questing. So this is a pretty big buff, and I'm glad to see it. Now, this will also apply to things like Backline, Guild Battle, Crystal, as well. So overall, I like it. I think it's, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 ability. It's definitely not game breaking, but it brings, whoa, cat went crazy. It brings, mages actually into a more competitive position when it comes to quests. So I like it. Clerics. Let's talk about them. They got a new ability. and it is a Lancer and Scythe ability. Great. One enemy deals 200 ability power with attack and defense 4 times at a 70% chance. One enemy applies erosion, nullifies effects that penetrate nullification and invulnerability for 10 seconds. So my question is, why are lances part of clerics? It's a great question. I still think that this ability is 0 out of 10 just because you still can't run a cleric type of build. Now, you could argue that there's a new weapon ability and they'll be coming out with new weapon abilities that take your Unison. For example, there's one of, I haven't gone over it yet, but I believe that, oops, got a bing, got a boom, bop. Yeah, this one does attack damage, scaling at 200 4 times. So pretty solid. And you could argue, well, it applies to clerics as well. So technically you have the minimum requirement of 2 abilities that dual scale in order to become a DPS class. But I just love how bad it is. Because why does it have erosion? And it's still 20 cost with an 8-second cooldown. It's just, and it's not even 5 hits, it's 4 hits with failure. I love this ability because it's so bad, but I know in my heart of hearts, I'm going to be trying it this weekend. And yeah, this is going to be my new main class. I'm going back to Cleric, baby. I'm going back to Cleric, but as a DPS Lancer Cleric. No, I love it. This is peak Unison degeneracy. Why would you ever run this? Just for the memes. And I love it. We're giving it a triple S tier. It is the most overpowered ability because if you use this ability, you're showing everyone else in the room you've got the largest cock. I just love it. But in all seriousness, it's pretty bad. All right. All right, Diamond Shock. The new Rook ability. It's one enemy applies Chipped Blade, which nullifies effects that penetrate damage reduction and damage reflection for 10 seconds. One enemy applies Erosion, which nullifies penetration of nullification and invulnerability effects for 10 seconds. And it's 20-second cooldown with 20 cost. I love this ability for PvP, like for Coliseum, for 1v1s, and for GB. Because sniping is going to become a thing. There are already comps that are sniping, and they're constantly sniping. But in combination with other abilities that Rooks have, healing abilities that Rooks have, devoted sacrifice that Rooks have, and even, an underrated ability, Blunt Stun, which, if the enemy racer is trying to race abilities, if you stun them, then you're slowing down their racing capability because you just put their ability on cooldown. Even though they didn't lose cost necessarily, they lost time, and time is money when it comes to guild battle racing. So I love this because that means that Rook front lines are going to be more viable, and having a Rook on your team becomes more of an incentive. Because as soon as the enemies start trying to kill you, this ability should be able to lock them down and prevent them from ending life. And that is valuable. That can win guild battles. So I like this ability. It brings more flexibility to the already exceptionally defensively flexible Rook. I absolutely love it. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 just because it is an ability that you can use right after your main ability, right? So you use Noble Conviction, and at the same time that the enemy would be sniping your team, you can help prevent them. Actually, I'm gonna undo my 10 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. We'll give it. Damn. The more that I think about it, it can miss, right? Chipped Blade and Erosion can both miss. There's no guarantee of anything. I like it. I just don't know if you'll actually be able to consistently live. Like if I was going to use Diamond Shock versus Devoted Sacrifice guarantees the team lives, whereas this just prevents them and hopefully fills your team. So I like the vision of this ability. Now, how... I just wish that it did a little bit more for 20 costs. All right. I the more that I think about it, the more that I think that it's not as worth it, but I still like that it adds a lot of flexibility to Rooks. So I'm gonna say it's a 6 out of 10 ability. However, I do like that it gives flexibility for frontline Rooks, because right now frontline Rooks really suffer. There's just no reason to run a frontline Rook, and it does make me sad. So I like that this increases the chances of frontline Rook, because I think that Rooks are way underrated, especially for guild battle. And they've kind of fallen to the wayside. So I like this ability. It does bring some power. Now, will you be able to fit this into the 5 ability slots? That's going to be the main question. I do like this, though. I do. I think that there's a lot of positions where this could be exceptionally valuable. Because if you apply the Chipped Blade or Erosion and the enemy still procs really well and they feed whoever they're trying to kill, they could instantly feed Uni and you could win the guild battle right there. So I like it, but at the same time, there's a chance that it misses. And do you really want to have the potential of losing a guild battle on a miss? It always feels bad. It feels great when it works, but it feels really bad. And there's no guarantee that they feed either, because if your teammate double procs defense, then they might not even take any damage and they might not gain any uni. So it's a 6 out of 10 from me. I know I was a little bit hyped before. I think I was still running on the high of the Cleric trolling. This ability, War God's Signal. Now this is actually a really good ability. And this is not an overhyped ability either. Yourself deals damage equivalent to 50% of the target's max HP. So you're losing 50% of your HP right off the bat. Yourself applies a new ability called Daredevil, which fills Unison gauge by 60 when an enemy player is defeated for 40 seconds. Yourself recovers 30 cost. So you're basically instantly gaining the cost required to kill somebody because it costs 0. And you're declaring to the entire team, PvP and guild battle, that if any of the enemies die, you will be gaining 60 uni, which is an unbelievable amount. This makes Berserkers possible pseudo racers, right? So the idea is that you would use this, you would instantly kill somebody, then you would have close to probably 70 to 80 uni because you did the damage and you got the kill, plus you got the 60 uni here. So you're almost there, just a little bit more and you'll be like a few cheers and you'll be there. Maybe even trying to snipe somebody else. So this lends to the fact that we're dealing with a killing meta. I think that this is going to be an exceptionally powerful ability. And this is honestly potentially broken, but we'll have to see. I'm going to give it there's no way I can't give it a 10 out of 10. The HP loss is the only thing that kind of sucks because some abilities use their HP, like Evil Quake consumes HP. A lot of the treasure, or a lot of the Berserker abilities are like that, but I don't think that that's enough to make this ability bad. All right, on to treasure hunters. Predator Vision. It costs 25, 30-second cooldown. One enemy and their adjacents, so a total of 3, amplifies gauge reduction effects by 50% for 20 seconds and does the same for cost. This is just incredible. I don't think that this is avoidable because it's not a debuff, right? So normally if you can miss, then it would be a debuff that you can see. And so that leads me to the fact that I think that this might be incredibly powerful. Now, I'm not sure if this will reduce. So if somebody has 100% unison reduction or 100% cost reduction with their main slots and the passives, I'm not sure if this will allow them to still get uni reduced. So we'll have to see. But it appears like this is an incredibly powerful ability. And I like that this is on a treasure hunter because it's not another racing ability that increases unison gauge. It's a debuffing ability. So I kind of like that as well. We'll have to see. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 for now. It may become meta. It may be useless. So, but I like the potential and it's a new thing. So I like that as well. All right, on to the ninja abilities. They got 2. Red Lightning Slash, which is a 15 cost, 7-second cooldown. Another dual scaling move that hits 5 times with 130 ability power and applies Scorching and Frozen. I don't think... See, Scorching and Frozen are both kind of... They're PvP and guild battle things. You can apply these, I believe, to things like questing monsters, but they have such high resistance to stuff like this, it's basically impossible. So this is exclusively for dealing damage to enemies, but it doesn't pierce. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. I like that the fact that this coincides with Lightning Slash can go with Cloud Cutter and Moon Piercer. That way you have a 3 ability lineup that can do good damage. So this brings ninjas more to the forefront when it comes to quests and damage on crystal. But overall, it's just another filler ability. Really good though. I would say it's probably like a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 because it helps fill out their abilities. The other one, Dream of Transience, 15 cost, 8-second cooldown, hits 3 enemies 5 times, dual scaling at 150, and then with an 80% success value, 1 enemy and 1 adjacent, so a group of 3 reduces all stats by 20, and 1 enemy removes all of their buffs as well. We'll have to see. The problem with this is that it's on the other version, and you don't normally stay on that in something like Guild Battle. So this will probably just be a PV, like a questing thing. And in the case of quests, it actually is a really good ability. It coincides really well with Cavity Incense. Both are dual scaling abilities that hit multiple enemies. So I like this. It's bringing, again, it's another ability. It's just another filler ability, but it brings ninjas into the questing and damage region a little bit better, which I think is really needed. So again, like this one's a 3 out of 10 for me. I'm not a fan of AoE abilities that don't hit a lot of times. And like, I guess 5 is a lot. We'll have to see though. I think the cooldown is a lot. You know, it may be a better ability than I'm giving it credit for. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 because it hits 5 times. That's pretty good. All right. Last 2 abilities. Morphers. Courageous Shout, 0 cost, 15-second cooldown, 7 uni to all allies. 10 out of 10 ability. You can use it everywhere. It's the unmorphed state. which I think is incredibly powerful. You don't spend a whole lot of time in the unmorphed state, but I think that for guild battles, it's a really, really good ability. And getting uni is never a bad thing. So you can use Courageous Shout before you morph. I think it's a nice ability. It's interesting. I like that it helps bring morphers into guild battles more. We'll have to see if it actually does anything beyond that. Heroic Assist cost 10, 15 seconds. All allies recovers 30% of the HP, and if they're maxed, then gives them uni. And all allies uni fills again, recovers 15% of the max CP. This is a specific ability for guild battles and is incredibly powerful. The reason why is because if your allies are at max HP, then it will give them 2 instances of Unison gauge gains. So it should, in theory, I haven't tested it, but in theory, it should give you a 5 and then a 7. So if you have Unison gauge gains, then of 2, for example, it'll give you 7 and 9. So you can see the vision for how it could be an exceptionally powerful ability. It does require being morphed, and the cost isn't bad. I also like that it heals CP. There's not a lot of abilities that heal CP. So overall, I'm going to give this one 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. We'll have to see again. I don't think it's enough to bring morphers into guild battles. But yeah, that's all of those abilities. I'll catch you guys later.